Hi, Nicole. Thanks for joining us. Now, we've been following, the case closely, but tell us briefly about the case and the upcoming hearing in Yorkton, Saskatchewan.
Yes, I've been involved in the Cusance case for 2 years now. I was brought on by David Milgard. We had worked together previously, and I became involved that way by doing a pro bono forensic independent analysis for the sisters. I've obviously been advocating for them ever since. Obviously, this is a gross miscarriage of justice, and they've spent, unfortunately, 30 years in prison for a crime they didn't commit. The upcoming bail hearing that we have next week for Odelia and Narissa is long overdue for anybody who has been following the case. Since their federal conviction review could take potentially 2 years to complete, it's more important than ever that they are released on bail so they can finally have that opportunity to go home and be with their family after so long. As I've said, it's been 30 years, and this is a gross over-incarceration by any standard.
Right, it's such a long time. Now, take us through both scenarios, if they get bail and if they don't.
Well, we are hoping, of course, fingers and toes crossed, that they do get bail. The ultimate goal at the end of all of this, as many years as it could take, as I said, is exoneration. But the first really critical step for them to be home and to be with their family and start their journey of healing is to get bail. And that's what we're hoping for. That's what Innocence Canada, their lawyer, is fighting for next week. If they do get bail, which again, we're very hopeful for, they will be able to leave with certain conditions imposed upon them. It's to be expected, but they would be able to be with their family. If not, unfortunately, it's a step in the wrong direction, and something that all of the advocates are hoping does not happen, because they will have to remain incarcerated under the direction of the parole board.
Okay. So do we have a sense of what their chances are of getting bail?
Well, we're hoping. We're very hopeful. Innocence Canada, I know, is on top of this. I've been in touch with all of the advocates, James Lockyer included, and we're going into this with everything we've got, and we're hoping that that the judge is mindful of the case and is aware that 30 years is too long for anyone. The person who has confessed and has spent time and been released as a young offender, that happened 25 years ago. And unfortunately, we have a case of these Indigenous women who, after 30 years, are still there. And unfortunately, the Saskatchewan government has made it very clear, certain members of the Saskatchewan government, that they would rather see these women locked up indefinitely than ever be released. And I've said it before, but we're simply seeking a remedy to help these women. But again, we're facing resistance at every single corner we turn from the government that put them there falsely in the first place. So we are hopeful that the bail hearing goes well. And I know certainly Odelia and Narissa are hopeful. They're, of course, over the moon that we have, the support we do. But we hope that they'll be able to finally go home and be free after all of these years.
Yes. Now, Justice Lamati has called an investigation, but that could take years. What are the options for these women?
Well, there's a few different ways that it could go. It could be completely thrown out. We hope that that's the case, but it could also be pushed back to the courts or to the appeal level. So because of it being such an extensive review, we are sort of just waiting at this point. And we're grateful that Minister Lameti has agreed to do this investigation, this conviction review. But the reality is, because there are so many cases and there's only so many people who are qualified to do this review, that, we could be looking at upwards of 2 years or even more. And in this case, with Odelia and Narissa, they've spent so much time already behind bars for a crime they did not commit. They've maintained their innocence. And the person who did commit that act has spent their time and been released. So we're very hopeful that
Yes.
that is in our favor.
Can you tell me a little bit about the petition that you started?
Sure. I started a petition when I first became involved. I thought it was important to note, I thought it was very important that Canadians become involved and we see the level of concern because we certainly knew the concern in this case. But we've collected more than 57,000 signatures. It's climbing by the day. We've contacted, as I said earlier, the Saskatchewan government, namely the Justice Minister, the Premier, and the Prosecution's Office. But unfortunately, nobody is willing to accept what happened, the harm done. They're not willing to make any personal comments or make any attempt at reconciliation.
Right.
So I will be attending the hearing in person next week. There will be an Indigenous representative in my place in Regina on January 17th. They are delivering the signatories that we've obtained so far to the Justice Minister in Saskatchewan.
Okay, thank you so much.
And yes, we want to raise awareness. We want everyone possible to know about this case, who the Cusant sisters are, what a gross miscarriage of justice this really is, and we want to bring light to the bail hearing that's going on. It's very important, 2 days next week for them, and so our hope obviously is that after all these years through bail, they'll finally be able to go home and begin this healing, but in the end, at the end of the day, we want to see them free permanently. We want to see them exonerated and have their name cleared. But this is really an important step in the right direction.
Okay.
It's something that has to happen legally right now.
Great.
Next week, we're expecting tremendous support, which is great.
And we'll be there too. So, but thank you for
Excellent.
updating us on this today.
Yes, thank you for having me.